Hi, everyone. I hope you're doing well. So I just have a couple of announcements here. So first, I'm going to dedicate the class. So this class should be Lilui Nishmat for Rav Aaron Walken, and should be a Refuah Shalema for Avraham ben Sarah Esther, for Chaim Menachem ben Leah, for Yosef ben Shlomit, for Hinda Rivka bat Chava, for Sason ben Bracha, for David ben Sarah, for Paltiel ben Sarah, and for Ara bat Nakazam. So I'm actually really excited to make these next two announcements. We've been waiting for this for a long time, so I'm excited to share this with you. So first piece of news, one, we actually plan on, when we originally started Sion, we plan to do all of this in person. We have a place in Jamaica Estates, and obviously because of what's going on in the world, we had to pause that. But I'm excited to announce that we actually have our first live class a week and a half from today on Sunday night. It's for the men's and women's class, and it's going to be in person. You know, it's cool that we're all going to be able to meet one another. I would love to be there, but I'm actually about to pop. So I'm 9 months pregnant, and so I don't know if I'll be there. I can't make any promises, but I'm bummed out because I really want to meet everyone in person. And basically, so it's going to be on July 5th in Jamaica Estates. We're going to send out an RSVP just due to corona restraints. We have to be careful with the amount of people we're inviting in. So just look out for that. We really, really, really want to see you in person. We want to feel the energy of you guys being there in person. So it's very exciting. Now, of course, it wouldn't be my announcement if I didn't ask. We want to make this event as special as humanly possible. So we'd really appreciate any sort of financial support that you could give, which brings me to my next awesome piece, or my next awesome announcement is that we've actually launched our website. It looks amazing. I'm going to share it with you in the side here, and there you can donate by using PayPal. Literally, I say this every time, as much or as little you can give. Anything is very, very special and very much appreciated. And because of your donations thus far, we were actually able to build something really, really beautiful. So I hope that you see that on our website as well. We really appreciate everything that you guys have done so far. So just to wrap it up, we've got a beautiful website that I'm going to be sharing with you. I'll share with you the website page and also the donation page. And then also, please, please, please come a week and a half from today on Sunday so that we can all learn this beautiful Torah together. All right, David, Rav David, back to you.
Okay, thank you. Very good, Baruch Hashem. So excited to be with you guys tonight to continue delving into Tehillim. Baruch Hashem last week was amazing. I hope you guys were able to watch that class. If you weren't, I would go back and watch it. And even if you watched it, I'd watch it again. Because it's very, very important that we turn this Torah that we're learning into our lives. You need to bring it into your life and to experience the Torah. This is the blessing of Chassidut, is that it's taking Kabbalah, the deepest, most mystical insights into reality, into spirituality, into physicality, and it's making it practical so we can live with it in our life. So it's very easy to come away inspired by learning Rabbi Nachum's Torah. It happens to all of us, Baruch Hashem, which is amazing. But for you to actually change your life, we need to take what he teaches and actualize it. And Tehillim, when it was written, King David, it was his hipodadu. Every day he was talking to Hashem, and those conversations, those very personal, intimate conversations became the substance of Tehillim. And the sages teach that even though it was his hipodadu, he was actually the collective soul of the Jewish people. We know that in the beginning of time, there was a man named Adam Rishon, Adam. And Adam was a collective soul, that all of the Jewish people, all the souls of the Jewish men and women, for all of history, were contained within his collective soul. And Adam, when was he reincarnated, so to speak? When did he come back in order to rectify errors that have been made? His original error, and also for all the Jewish people in general. But that happened with the birth of David. King David, was a reincarnation of Adam Rishon, the first man. And that was really in the middle point of history. Ultimately, the Mashiach who we're waiting for is the final complete reincarnation of Adam Rishon, of David, and that's Mashiach. And all of this is actually hinted to within the name Adam, because Adam is the letters Aleph, Dalet, Mem, and they are an acronym for Adam, David, and Mashiach. So really, Tehillim was wrote by Mashiach. And why is that important for us? Because he is the collective soul of the Jewish people. That means that when whatever came out of him is applicable and practically relevant to every single Jewish man and woman at any time, in any space, in any dimension, in any galaxy, because he is all of us. Now, Rabbi Nachman says in the second section of the Kutei Moran Tinyana, in Kuf Aleph, 101, lesson 101, that when you say Tehillim, you're not just supposed to be reading it. We had a question before, should I do the segula of saying as much as possible, saying a whole day's worth, or all of Tehillim in one day in Shabbat? And I said that even though there's merit to that, Rabbi Nachman says not to do that. That would be much more beneficial for you and for the Jewish people and for your family and for your friends and for the universe if you say one word and mean it. Much more effective than saying all of Tehillim in one day. To say one word and really mean it. Because Rabbi Nachman says that when a Jew looks into Tehillim and he starts to say it, he needs to, not that it's nice to, he needs to find himself within the Tehillim. And we just explained how he's able to do that. Because all of our souls are bound up with the soul of Mashiach, with the soul of David, with the soul of Adam. That was the one who wrote this book. So it has to be applicable to each of us at every moment. There can't be a moment in your life that Tehillim does not apply to you. And that's in any chapter that you're reading. It has to apply to you. So now the obvious question is, how does it apply to me? I read Tehillim. It's talking about David, and he's fighting with kings, and he's fighting with warriors, and he's in the military, and he has enemies who are attacking him on all sides, and he's trying to protect the Jewish people, and he's trying to lead them. What does that have to do with us? What does that have to do with me? So Rabbi Nachman explains that in truth, the essence of these enemies, they are spiritual, not physical. That these enemies that are attacking him on all sides, that are causing him anguish and suffering, that are causing him confusion, that are causing him angst, they are spiritual, they are psychological, they are emotional, they are internal. Doesn't mean he didn't have physical enemies, he did. But the essence of what David was speaking about was his inner turmoil, was what they call in Kabbalah the Sea Chakra, the negative forces in reality which are attempting to cause to disconnect you from the source of existence, which is the place of all good. Everything you're looking for, whether it's happiness, whether it's inner peace, whether it's tranquility of the mind, whether it's livelihood to sustain and support your family, whether it's good relationships with your children and your husband, all of that comes from the source of reality, the initial point of creation. That's called the Ein Sof, the infinite one, the endless light. What's stopping us from experiencing all of those things? That we're not consciously connected to Hashem. And what's stopping us from doing that? It is called the Sea Chakra. The obvious question is, why did Hashem make the Sea Chakra if it disconnects us from all good? Because we don't believe that anything exists in and of itself. Hashem created everything. The answer is, you couldn't have free will without it. And the whole chidush, the whole novelty of our physical world, of our life here, what makes this unique and different than it would have been if we had just been with Hashem for all time, like we were prior to our souls being incarnated into this world, coming down into our bodies and our families and our situations and our struggles with our strengths and our weaknesses. Nachman says the whole reason was only to provide us with free will. That free will is the chidush. It is the novelty of this world. Why does free will only exist down here? Why doesn't free will exist when you're, so to speak, directly attached to Hashem and its source? The answer is da'at. Da'at is a word that means consciousness. When a person has divine consciousness, transcendent God consciousness, what they call in Kabbalah and Chassidut da'at or das. When a person has this, he loses his free will. Why? Because when you know what's good, not just in your mind, but in your heart, and you can always choose good, so then you don't really have a choice. But if good and the thing that disconnects you from good both look like they both have benefits, now you have a choice. Right? If you're with your husband and you see he's upset about something, see something's bothering him, but you need him to help you. You need him to help you at home. You need him to spend time with you. But you see he had a rough day at work. So you have two choices. You can either push him to be close to you, even though he may not want to, because of how he feels. And this will cause you tremendous feelings of hurt, feelings of low self-worth, feelings of being incapable, feelings of being unloved. And we usually choose that choice. Or we could say to ourselves, this is what Hashem wants. Hashem wants right now that we have space. What could be a reason that Hashem wants me to have space right now? Maybe because he wants me to develop self-worth. Because if my feelings of worth are only coming from my husband, then I'm not free. And Hashem wants me to be free. So what can I do in that time? My husband is busy doing whatever he's doing. How can I develop my self-worth? How can I approach the situation in a way that connects me to life? Talk to Hashem. Say, Hashem, why do I feel that I need my husband to give me this attention? Why do I feel empty without that? Ask Hashem if he can fill it up. And as soon as you have that conversation, you're conscious. You're alive. But if you choose that first choice, then you usually experience anger and despair and sadness and confusion. All of that, according to the Torah, according to Kabbalah, according to Chassidut, that's called death. Emotional death, psychological death, spiritual death. Why? Because if you're alive, you have emunah. If you have emunah, you're alive. If you don't have emunah, you're dead, even when you're living. How do we get to the point that we are able to approach our life this way? So Rabbi Nachman says, how do you choose your free will in a way that is bringing you closer to the good, to happiness, to joy, to Hashem, the only good that there is? So Rabbi Nachman says, by saying Tehillim and understanding that David is giving you all of the weapons to combat your own Yetzer Hara, the part of you which is disconnecting you from the place that you want to be, close to Hashem, that you can choose your free will, you can use your free will for good. And that's this whole world, that's your whole life, choosing. You don't cause the effect. This is secular nonsense. The effect of your actions are not in your hands. They're in Hashem's hands. Your only choice in life is to choose. So you might think that's very limiting. It's actually the most empowering thing in the world. First off, then you can focus on reality. You don't have to focus on what's the result of my choices, because they're not in my hands. All you can do and all you need to do is focus on choosing well. And then the rest is for Hashem. But the key to being able to find those resources within Tehillim is to know what it's saying, to know how it applies to you. And then Rabbi Nachman says that when you say Tehillim, to say it as simply, as easily, as unsophisticatedly, as genuinely and authentically as possible, and to find yourself in every single word. So this is why we're doing this. This is why we did last week's lesson. This is why we're doing tonight's lesson. And Bezrat Hashem, this is why we're doing these lessons moving forward. So now let's look at the second chapter of Tehillim. It says, and it starts with Lama Ragshu Goyim Ulumim Yegurik. Why are the nations gathering together, convening? Ulumim Yegurik. Why are these people meditating, plotting? Vanity. Okay. So now that we know that David's actually speaking about his Yetzer Hara, now that we know he's actually speaking about the negative forces in reality, the klipot, he's giving you an insight that's very important. And that is, they're not playing around. They have one goal in life. It's to get you to choose wrong. That's their whole mission here, is to get you to choose wrong. The goyim that he's speaking about, the nations, the people that he's speaking about, are his Yetzer Hara, are the klipot, are the negative forces in reality which are trying to disconnect you from the source that is only good, to remove your consciousness, to make you unconscious, and therefore to experience sadness and anger and despair and confusion. Yigyazvu malchei eretz v'roznim nosto yachad. Kings of the earth, they are taking their stand. V'roznim nosto yachad. And these leaders are gathering together. What are these kings? What are these leaders? So a king is someone who has authority. A king is someone who has an influence on every one of your actions. You say to yourself, I don't have any king. There's no kings nowadays. There's no king. It's not true. You have a king. You actually have two kings. You choose which king is your king. There is one king. His name is Hashem. He is the source and the root of your soul. He is infinite good. He is unlimited love and empathy and compassion. That is one king you can choose. The other king you can choose, which is the natural choice, it's the unconscious choice, that king is called your Yetzer Hara, your ego, your sense of self as separate from Hashem, your sense of self as separate from the Jewish people, your sense of self that's separate from creation, separate from reality. Ego, the Yetzer Hara. You don't have a choice about whether or not you have a king. You have a king. Your only choice is to choose which is your king. When you choose Hashem, you have no other king, and you're free. When you choose the Yetzer Hara, then everything else becomes your authority. You become vulnerable to people, places, and things. Everything could make you angry. Everything can make you sad. Everything can make you confused. It's not because of the reality that's taking place. It's because you're not crowning Hashem as your king. You're choosing, unbeknownst to you, your Yetzer Hara. So David is trying to teach you, this is very serious. You need to know that they are gathering together at all times to try and get you to choose wrong. And the main way they do that is by not allowing you to experience consciousness, to be awake, to be alive. How do they do that? Al Hashem va'al Mashiach. What are they gathering to do? What is their prime attempt? What is their main way that they are disconnecting you from true consciousness, from being awake, from being connected to the root of your soul, the place of all good? Every single time, they're trying to get you to not choose Hashem and not to choose his Mashiach. Who's his Mashiach? So Rav Nachman explains, it's the tzaddik of the generation. Every person who comes and leads the generation, he's the one who teaches and has all the guidance that's necessary in order to connect to your higher self, to your inner reality, to the place you've always been looking for. He is called your Mashiach. How does the Yetzer Hara, the Sea Chakra, stop you from connecting to Hashem? By stopping you from connecting to your Mashiach. We learn in this week's Parsha, Korach, the root of this, the root of machloket, the root of conflict, internal conflict. Korach was a very brilliant man. Korach was a very wealthy man. Korach came from very high lineage, and he had a very great soul. All those things combined to make him feel that he should also be a leader of the Jewish people. He should be a leader just as much as Moshe Rabbeinu was. What's the issue? He wasn't. Not because he wasn't brilliant, not because he didn't have a lot of capabilities, but because there is only one Mashiach in every generation. There is only one Tzaddik Hador. There is only one Tzaddik Emet. There is only one Tzaddik Yesod Olam. So what looks like, from his perspective, was a very convincing argument. And especially for our generation, that everything is about being democratic. that Korach literally said, why can't we all be tzaddikim? Why should Moshe be the only tzaddik? That sounds like a great argument, because the pasuk in Yeshaya says that all Jewish people are tzaddikim. So again, he was very smart. He was right. But Rabbi Nachman teaches that there's a truth and there's a truth of truths. Yes, every single Jewish person has within him the potential to be a tzaddik. But not everybody is the tzaddik emet. Not everybody is the Re'eh Me'amana, the faithful shepherd of the Jewish people of that generation. There is one soul that continues to reincarnate in every generation to lead the Jewish people. There's only one soul like that. And Hashem designated that soul before creation. It's Moshe. The reason why Moshe Rabbeinu lived 120 years is because the Arizal explains he reincarnates 120 times, his soul. And the Arizal tracks back all of those original reincarnations up until a certain point. Let's do the math. If he comes down 120 times, when does he come down? Every Jubilee. Every 50 years. His soul is reincarnated every 50 years. What's 50 times 120? 6,000. How many years do the sages explain that this universe will exist as we know it today? 6,000 years. So he is here every generation until the end. And there is no other Moshe. So you might think to yourself, okay, so what's the big deal? So he had a different opinion. Okay, so great. The issue is that the only way to connect to Hashem is through the tzaddik. The tzaddik helps you to become a tzaddik. But if you're not connected to the real tzaddik, to the truth of truths, you're only connected to the truth, you never become that person. And you're led in a way that disconnects you from Hashem. Because what's the real reason that Korach couldn't handle the fact that Moshe was the leader of the Jewish people and that nobody else was? Because of something that's called gava, which all of us have. And it's the most subtle thing, arrogance. So you might think, what's so arrogant about it? That doesn't sound so arrogant. For this, you need hibodedut. What's the reason that a person doesn't want to feel that there is some type of authority, that there is some type of leader who has the key to him reaching his full potential? Why doesn't a person want to have that in his life? The answer is ego. If you think about it, who cares? Who cares? Really, imagine you're in a business, right? Let's say you work in real estate. You have a guy who is the greatest real estate broker in the world. He happens to live in your town. He happens to want to take you under his wing to show you everything that he knows. You say, oh, I don't want to learn from him. I don't want to be that. Okay, so how do you be that? You have to learn. You have to learn how to do it from the person who's doing it. It's really pretty basic. But when it comes to spirituality, when it comes to leadership of men, of women, when it comes to spiritual authority, I don't want a rabbi. I don't want a person that I have to listen to. I don't want a person who's going to tell me what's going to bring me close to Hashem. Where does that come from? It comes from insecurity. If you were secure, you wouldn't care. Hashem sent somebody to give you and bring you to all the good. He wants to connect you to Hashem. He wants to connect you to true simcha, to true joy. He wants to give you inner peace. He wants to bring you to connection. He wants to make your relationships good with your friends and family. We don't want those things. But because someone wants to teach us how to do that, that's a problem. And this is what we're all dealing with. You tell anybody that you're learning Rabbi Nachman's teachings, they're going to go, he's a great rabbi, but I wouldn't listen to the things that he's saying. What do you mean? You're going to go out in the field for an hour a day? That's insane. You have a husband, you have kids, you have work. When are you going to have time to do that? Well, you're saying I shouldn't tell my husband that there's something wrong with him? I should just talk to Hashem about it? That's insane. Well, that I should be learning Torah? But they say the Torah is only for men. And the list goes on and on and on and on. And there's no way to avoid this. You have to go through that because it gives you free will. Because if everybody knew who the real tzaddik was, knew who Moshe Rabbeinu was in that generation, you wouldn't have free will. Because you would simply choose him. However, your whole essence and the whole benefit of this world, the good that you're going to be experiencing forever, is that you choose good. And if you know who Moshe is and everyone knows who Moshe is, you don't have to choose. So what is the Yetzer Hara's main attempt at disconnecting you from Hashem? By disconnecting you from his tzaddik, from his Mashiach. They want to tear away his guidance and cast away his ropes. Why do they not want you to connect to the tzaddik? Because then he's finished. The Sea Chakra, the klipot, the Yetzer, only choosing wrong. From you choosing correctly. When you get angry, it gets life force. When you're sad, it gets life force. When you're confused, it gets life force. And then it's able to attack even harder. It's able to squeeze in on you in an even more intense way. To make you more confused, to make you more angry, to make you more sad. All of these negative emotions give the Sea Chakra life force. So how do they disconnect you from Hashem so that it could have life force? By disconnecting you from his Mashiach. Because if you have complete connection and attachment to his teachings, to his wisdom, to his advice, and you try and bring it into your life, so you're going to slaughter your Yetzer Hara. Because you're going to be living with joy. Because you're going to be living with peace. Because you're going to be living with consciousness. You're going to be living with Amunah. You're going to be alive. And if you're alive, then the Yetzer Hara is not. But if you're sleeping, then the Yetzer Hara lives. Yoshev b'shamayim yischak Adonai yilag lamo. Hashem is sitting in Shamayim. He is sitting in the spiritual universes. Adonai yilag lamo. And he finds it humorous that the Sea Chakra, that the Yetzer Hara is trying to stop you from connecting to the tzaddik. What does it mean that he's sitting? He's not physical. So Rabbi Nachman explains, Rabbi Natan explains, that when you're sitting, you're still. There's no change. Nothing is transforming. But when you're moving, things are changing. They're moving, they're transforming. The malachim, the angels, they don't move. They're still. Hashem, at that level of existence, he is quote unquote sitting. Why is he sitting? Because at that level of reality, he says, I don't change. My Mashiach doesn't change. Geula doesn't change. World peace is not going to change. Redemption is not going to change. It's all going to happen. They can't change that. So it's humorous for Hashem. But at our level, in our life, Hashem is changing with us. When you pray to him, he is responding to you. When you're doing something good, you're trying to choose right, you get a response. But how can it be both? How can it be that I'm having an intimate relationship with Hashem that's constantly changing and transforming, and yet at the same time Hashem is sitting, he's not changing, and everything has to be. And everything is whatever Hashem wants it to be at all times. The answer is it's a paradox. Because there's two levels of consciousness. There is a lower level of consciousness which we are usually connected to. That level of consciousness is one of free will. It's one of change. It's one of transformation. And this is our basic baseline consciousness. However, there is a higher consciousness than that. This is a consciousness which you can obtain in Hibodedut. And that is, you're able to experience Ein Od Milvado. There's nothing else besides Hashem. And that doesn't negate the fact that you have a free choice. And there's no ability for a person in this world to understand that. It's not a paradox because they both can't coexist. It's a paradox because we're not conscious enough to experience how both those things can be. And that's to give you free choice. But you still need to know that at a higher level of reality, Hashem doesn't change. And whatever Hashem wants to happen is what happens. Hashem wants redemption for you, it's going to happen. Hashem wants that there should be world peace, which he does, it's going to happen. Hashem wants that everybody should be wealthy, it's going to happen. Hashem wants that everybody should be healthy, it's going to happen. We can't stop that from happening. And at the same time, we have a part to play. How can we have a part to play if Hashem's doing it anyway? This is the paradox. To be able to hold both of these states of consciousness, you have to do Hibodedut. Because the more you talk to Hashem and you're alone with Hashem, and then you bring that back to your life and to your relationships, so when you go to Hashem and you're alone with him, you're able to connect to the fact that Ein Od Milvado, there's nothing else besides him. Because by speaking to him, by relying on him, by throwing all of your issues on him instead of on people, places, and things, then you are becoming conscious of reality, that Hashem is really the cause of everything. And then when you go back into your life, you're going to have an impression from that experience. You're not going to be able to feel as connected as you were in your Hibodedut to that reality, but every single time that you do it, it leaves an impression on you, and it lifts up your normal lower state of consciousness. So it gets closer and closer and closer to you experiencing that it's all Hashem. And that's the source of all peace. And that's the source of all joy. That's the source of all happiness. That's the source of all connection. And then Hashem is going to speak to them in his anger. And he's going to make them confused with his fierceness. What is speaking about? This is speaking about the end, when the redemption comes. But Rabbi Nachman says something very interesting. He says you learn from here that anger and fear are connected. This is a very deep insight. Rabbi Nachman wrote a book when he was a teenager. When he was a young teenager. It's called Sefer Amidot. In English, it's called the Aleph Bet book. And he wrote down many incredible insights at a very young age. The first one we're going to discuss together is the fact that Rabbi Nachman says, what causes fear in your life. It's anger. You learn from this pasuk that Hashem is angry with them, and then they became afraid. So Rabbi Nachman is saying this is hinting to a very deep psychological reality, that when a Jewish man or woman becomes angry, it leads to fear. How is that? Anger comes from a lack of emunah. When a person is angry, it's because at that moment he doesn't believe whatever is happening is coming from Hashem. And from that perspective, there is a shtickle, a little bit of avodah zarah in there. Avodah zarah means that you believe something else is in control of your life at any given moment. That's called idol worship. Avodah zarah doesn't mean that you're bowing down to a stone or a tree. It means you think that there is an influence in your life that's not Hashem. How are you always connected to the fact that Hashem is the influence that's causing everything in your life? Only with emunah. When a person lacks emunah, what's his response to difficulties and challenges in his life? It's anger. And now Rabbi Nachman says, what happens when you get angry from your lack of emunah? It ends up manifesting in fear, insecurity. It comes from anger. So it's a very deep insight. But Hashem says, I have already anointed my king on Zion, the mountain of my Kedusha. Meaning Hashem is saying, I already anointed Mashiach before the world came into existence. Korach and people, places, and things can't change the fact that my Mashiach is Mashiach. Asapra al-Chok. And now David, Mashiach, is saying, I am going to tell the world. Hashem Amar. Hashem said, Alai, to me, Bani ata, you're my son. This is a very, very important pasuk. I don't understand. Mashiach's insight is to tell us that I'm his son, I'm his daughter, that I'm Hashem's son or daughter. That's the big chiddush. That's what's going to change the world. That's what's going to help him overcome all of his opposition. Yes. Because if you don't know that you're Hashem's daughter, Mom is his daughter. If you're a mother, think about your kids. If you're not a mother yet, think about what it would be like if you had kids. How do you feel about them? How do you care about them? How do you agonize over their suffering? And you're a person. Imagine you had that and it was unlimited. That's Hashem. Hashem cries when you cry. Your tears are actually Hashem's tears, Rabbi Nachman says. Hashem is crying through you. What's the key? What is Mashiach going to teach us that's going to help us overcome? What is the Tzaddik Yesod Olam going to teach us that's going to overcome our Yetzer Hara? First off, Beni ata. You're my son. You're my daughter. You think because you're not close to your parents, you don't have parents? It's not true. You have Hashem. Often the reason that Hashem makes it that you have issues with your parents, or that you don't feel like you have a positive father or mother figure, is because Hashem wants to be that for you. David HaMelech didn't have that. They thought he was a mamzer. He was alienated as a child. He wasn't allowed to play with his brothers. He was rejected by society. He was rejected by his friends and family. Why would Hashem do that to him? So that he can experience Hashem saying, Beniyata, you're my son. You're my son. You're my daughter. I gave you parents. They're not your parents. They were sent to safeguard you. I'm your dad. And I love you with an endless love. And I believe in you until the end. And I'm not going to let you fail. This is the beginning of your being able to overcome your Yetzer Hara. When you realize that you are Hashem's daughter. And he loves you with an endless love. And he empathizes you with an unlimited empathy. Ani hayom yiliticha. And I'm giving birth to you today. Second, very interesting, bizarre thing. David, Mashiach, the Tzaddik, is coming to teach us that I'm Hashem's child. So that's the first key to overcoming the Yetzer Hara. And the second one, which is so important, Rabbi Nachman stressed all the time. He says to David, I'm giving birth to you today. Rabbi Nachman says you have to start over all the time. What does that mean? You fall. You make an error. You make a mistake. You choose not life. What should you do now? So David, Mashiach, is saying to you, the Tzaddik is teaching you, start over again. Start over again. Like you never existed before. But what do you mean? I just had this fight and no. It's gone. Poof, doesn't exist anymore. Start over again. Like nothing ever happened. So you might say to yourself, yeah, but that's not responsible. That's not based in reality. So the sages teach like this. Time is a very mysterious thing. The past is gone, doesn't exist anymore. The future isn't here yet. And the present is gone in the blink of an eye. So where is time? Rabbi Nachman teaches, in truth, it doesn't exist. That is something worth contemplating. Time does not actually exist. It is a figment of our imagination. Hashem gave us what looks like time so that we can have free will. But in truth, when a person is conscious of the inner reality of Hashem, who has no limits, who is not bound by time or space, so you also are not. Where's Rabbi Nachman's proof for this? How do you experience this in a practical way in your life? When you have a dream. Rabbi Nachman says, what happens when you have a dream? It feels like it's forever. If somebody came to you in a dream and said, this is only 3 seconds, this is only 7 seconds, you would deny that. You would take an oath, it's not true. You would give up your life for your belief that you've been in that dream for many years. And that dream was 7 seconds, 3 seconds. What's the reason it feels so long? Because you're unconscious, because you're sleeping. And what happens when you wake up? You realize it was a dream. It didn't really exist. Rabbi Nachman says, why does Hashem do that for us? Why did he give us this paradigm in our life? Because you're sleeping right now. If you're angry, you're sleeping. If you're sad, you're sleeping. If you're confused, you're sleeping. If you don't have life force, you're sleeping. And that's why everything feels so long and it's so hard. But as soon as you connect to the tzaddik, as soon as you take his wisdom and you build it into your life and you follow through with it, even when it doesn't make sense according to your current level of understanding and consciousness, then you become awake. And when you become awake, time flies very quickly. Rabbi Nachman says the more conscious you become, the faster time goes. until the point that Rabbi Nachman explains, Rabbi Natan explains, that Mashiach, what's going to make him Mashiach, he's going to get to such a high level of consciousness that time will actually disappear from him completely. He won't experience time anymore. And therefore, this pasuk, Tehillim, that says, I've given birth to you right now, today, it's true. Why? Because he is at the point now that he realizes every moment is a brand new reality. Whatever happened in the past doesn't exist anymore. Whatever will be in the future hasn't happened yet. All I have is this present moment, and it's brand new at every moment. You have to live with that consciousness. Because what happens when you're contemplating things that already happened and you're ruminating about it, you're thinking about it, you're killing yourself over it, you are sleeping. And that's why it feels like it's taking so long. But if you keep starting over again, like you never lived before, that Hashem gives birth to you today, then you're alive, then you're free, then you're conscious, then you're connected to Hashem, you're connected to Mashiach, you're connected to the truth, and you're happy. We're going to continue, B'ezrat Hashem, this parak in Tehillim. B'ezrat Hashem, we'll finish it next week. Does anybody have any questions from tonight's class? Should have questions. You don't want to ask them out loud, you should ask them on the bottom, but everyone should have questions. The main question should be, how do I practically bring this into my life? Do we have any questions? Is the reason nobody's asking because you don't? Because it was so clear? Or because you're bothered by the lesson? Somebody say something.
Rabbi, how do we do it?
There you go. Finally. Thank you. Great question. How do we do what?
Implement everything. I mean, I know the answer is you go to do, but like, how do we do it? Once we're davening for it, how do we do it?
You have to, we're learning tonight, you have to attach yourself to Moshe, to the Mashiach of the generation, to your tzaddik. What does it mean to attach yourself to your tzaddik? It means that you learn his wisdom every day to some extent, and you follow his advice to the best of your ability. So how do you do it? You keep learning Rabbi Nachman's teachings, and every single time you learn something, you bring it back to your Yibodedut, whatever you learned, and you ask Hashem to be able to experience what you learned. Because the question is not whether Rabbi Nachman, what he's saying is real. It's all real. You can experience all of these things. The only question is getting there. How do you get there? Hashem needs to bring you there. So you need to ask Hashem to help you. You do that in your Hibodedut. And also, you go to Hibodedut whenever you need help. When you have an issue, you talk to Hashem. Hashem, I'm struggling with eating. I can't stop eating. If you just try and force yourself not to eat, you will fail. But if words come out of your mouth, you say, Hashem, Hashem, I don't want to overeat right now. It doesn't make me feel better. I feel worse after I do that. It's not giving me life force. It's making me tired. It's making me confused. It's making me angry. If those words leave your mouth and you ask Hashem, now you have a shot. But if you just try, you will fail. because Hashem made us in a way that we can't succeed without him. So our error is not in the fact that we're failing. That's not our fault. Our error is that we don't ask Hashem for help. Asking does not mean in your mind. Asking does not mean in a book. Asking means that physical, verbal words come out of your mouth that are audible, that are heard in your ears to Hashem. And then you have a shot. I'll give you an example. Hopefully my parents aren't in this class. Okay, I hope this also falls into Kibud Avim, but just to try and relate, and just like, this is the first idea that popped into my head. I was trying to implement these teachings, similar to where you guys are probably all holding right now. I was connecting to them. I was inspired by them. I was struggling in my life in many different areas. They felt real to me. I was trying to talk to Hashem when I every day, but still my life was a struggle. It was a tremendous struggle in almost every area. And I remember I went to my parents, they get a home in, it was Montauk my whole life, every summer. That's where they met, and they went every summer. They look forward to it every year. And then I think they started going to the Hamptons in the past few years. And I went there with my wife and kids. So sorry, 1 second. Sorry about that. So I went there with my wife and kids, and I was trying to implement new things, like Kibud Avim, like honoring my parents, which they were not used to. Because growing up, I wasn't a bad kid, per se, but I didn't know anything about honoring your parents. And I definitely didn't really do things for them. And it's a big thing. It's a big thing to honor your parents, no matter how they are. And that's very hard to do. So when we were together, it was Shabbat, and Baruch Hashem, like they really, they try and help us to keep Shabbat and not observe it. All of this is new for them, even now, but they try their best. And I decided, like, when the food was coming out, that I would serve my parents food. I would bring them the food. And I could see immediately my dad was very confused and getting angry. And my mom is like, why are you giving us food? We're your parents. We're going to give you food. I said, no, I want to give it to you. I want you to sit down. I want you to relax. It's Shabbat. I want you to enjoy. I want to give you food. So I asked my dad, what drink do you want? He told me what drink he wanted, and I could see like the anxiety was building, It's like another new thing that David's doing that we're not used to. And I come back with the drink, and I have a big smile on my face, and I open it up. And I guess the bottle was shaken before. So the drink just like shot out everywhere, and it went all over my dad. And his face just, I don't know how to explain it. And I was so embarrassed. And I felt like so never. And he got really mad at me. And I remember thinking, I got so upset because I was just like, this is like I'm trying to do something nice. I failed, it didn't work. But I was really trying to do something nice. And in my attempts to do the right thing, the response was anger. The response was volatility. And that's painful. So what did I do? Normally, if I was growing up like I grew up, I would have got into a huge argument with my parents. What did I do instead? I said, Hashem, I said to myself, I know Rabbi Nachman says, when you feel like this, don't respond. Go talk to Hashem. I left the room, I pretended like I was going to go get napkins or whatever. I gave them napkins, and then I went to the back. And with tears coming down from my eyes, not because it was so serious, but just because when you're trying so hard all the time to try and connect to something good and you're rejected by your reality, it's very hard. So I went behind the wall. I said, Hashem, everything that happens is from you. Everything that happens for the very best. Everything that happens is to bring me closer to you. And I kept saying it over and over and over and over again. I said, Hashem, help me to go back into that room and to be calm and to be happy and to enjoy my Shabbat. And I was able to. Why? Because I brought Hashem back into my life, because He is the cause. As soon as you connect to the cause, you're alive. What happens if you respond to the effect and not the cause? You die. You die psychologically, you die emotionally, you die physically, you die in stress, you die in embarrassment, you die in anger and confusion. So that's a practical example. How do you respond? You go and you talk to Hashem. You reconnect yourself to Hashem. It says that a tzaddik lives with his emunah. He lives with his emunah, meaning he's not alive if he doesn't have emunah. Nachman says, what is emunah? Talking to Hashem. That's the emunah. So you have a problem, go talk to Hashem. Even though you have an hour of Hibodedut that you're supposed to be talking to Hashem about all of these things, it doesn't mean you don't have to talk to Hashem the rest of the day. The more conscious you become, the more you talk to Hashem. Because you realize He's the cause of everything. You realize He's the source of your life. You realize that He is your Father that loves you and that He wants the best for you. A person who has emunah, he speaks to Hashem. A person who has more emunah, he talks more. A person who has more emunah, he speaks even more. Because when you realize that everything is Hashem, so why would you ever go through a secondary source? Why would I ever deal with the effect of a problem? My parents are not the cause of the problem. Hashem caused it. So why am I going to interact with someone who doesn't have the ability to change it? Or at least in a deep way to change it. I went to Hashem. I chose correctly. That's called choosing correctly. Only through attachment to the tzaddik, only through learning his advice, only through learning his wisdom every day and bringing it into your life in a practical way, trying your best. And even when you fail, like we learned in tonight's class, start over again. Rabbi Nachman said, I had to start over many times every day. Starting over doesn't mean, let's go again. And still think about all of the stuff. No, it means it's gone. Start over completely. And reattach yourself to Hashem through speech. Start over again completely. If you continue to start over again, then ultimately you will succeed. This is the key to success. The key to success is the ability to start over again. But so you might say to yourself, yeah, but people always told me stop thinking about it and I can't. The reason is because you think it's real. Nobody knows that the reason why starting over again works is because starting over again is truth. Because you are a brand new person at every moment, because your reality is a brand new reality at every moment, because it's not the same as it was 1 second ago. Nothing is the same. The fact that you feel that it is because your consciousness is asleep. That's fine, that's all of us. What do we need to do? We need to start over again and to try and bring the tzaddik's teachings back into our life by living them out to the best of our ability. And continue doing that every moment, every day. And you'll see that those moments will stack up, those days will stack up, and ultimately you will change. But if you are constantly staying in the past, which isn't even real anymore, you will be stuck. And you will never be able to grow to happiness, to peace, to connection, to security, to self-esteem. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, great. I see there's another question on the bottom. So my question is, I know it's getting a little off topic. How do I make Hibodedut a habit? I learn about it, then do it for a day, and then I stop. How do I do it consistently? Oh, there you go. Great question. You ready? What does it mean to be attached to Moshe? To be attached to the tzaddik? To be attached to the one who's trying to make you conscious? The answer is, to be attached means to do his ratzon, his will. To follow through with his advice. That means that you're attached. So you're saying, which is a great question, and this is how everybody starts who learns Rabbi Nachman's teachings. I did Hibodedut one time, I felt good about it. Next day, I didn't do it. I did it again a week later, I felt good about it. Next day, I didn't do it. I did it again a month later, I felt good. Next day, I didn't do it. Okay, some people do that for a few days. Some people do that for months. Some people do that for years. So I'm trying to help streamline your process so you don't have to go through all of that. What did I find in my process of going through that? How are you able to get yourself to do Hibodedut every day? By forcing yourself to do it no matter how you feel. Like for instance, you're going to say, okay, great, but I want to, I'm just not doing it. Did you eat today? Yes, everyone here ate today. What if I told you not to eat today? Or tomorrow when you wake up, don't eat anything for the whole day. I mean, what do you mean I have to eat? So even though you may not have time, even though circumstances may not permit it, even though things are going to come up in your day that are going to cause you struggle and tribulation and trials and difficulties and confusions, you're still going to find time to eat because you have to eat. You have to have this approach with Hibodedut. Hibodedut is life. It brings you life. Not just spiritual life, physical life. So you have to stop looking at Hibodedut like it's a nice psychological mechanism for helping me feel peace in my life. It is not a nice thing to do. You need to. You need to. The Yetzer Hara does not want you to do Hibodedut, like we just learned about in this Tehillim, this chapter. Your Yetzer Hara is not sometimes working. He is always working. He does not want you to feel peace. He does not want you to feel joy. He does not want you to feel security. He does not want you to feel good about yourself. He doesn't want you to feel connected to Emunah. What is the greatest tool to Emunah? Hibodedut. So what's the last thing the Yetzer Hara wants you to do? Hibodedut. So when you go to do Hibodedut and you're like, you know what? I'm tired. I don't want to. You know it's not coming from you. It's your Yetzer Hara. You say, but I don't have time today. Did you have time to eat? Yes. Did you have time to sleep? Yes. Did I have time to drink? Yes. Did I have time to go into the bathroom and to get myself ready to go out for the day? Yes. How did you have time for all that? Because I need to. Because those are necessities. You need to do Hibodedut as much as those things. Why don't you feel that? Because the Yetzer Hara does not want you to do Hibodedut. It doesn't want you to. So what do you have to do? You have to force yourself to do it no matter how you feel and no matter what time allows you. How do you do that? You need to make it numero uno priority. Today, just like you're scheduling in your work tomorrow, just like you're scheduling in time to spend with your kids, just like you're scheduling in time to be with your husband, just like you're scheduling in time for whatever. First, make an hour for hipodadu. And then schedule around that. Nobody's going to tell you that's normal. If you ask anybody else, they're going to say that's irresponsible. But those people are not Moshe. And the only way for you to have free will is to choose Moshe. I think by now, after being in these classes, you know and you feel that this is real. Or if not, you wouldn't be here. So how do you get to experience the good from it? You get the benefit from Moshe when you listen to Moshe. If you go to a doctor and you get a prescription for medication for something, you have a virus. This amps out the virus. You have to take it for 7 straight days. Imagine you take it for 1 day, and then you start to feel a little bit better. So you stop taking it for 6 days. And you feel terrible. You go back to the doctor and you say, why don't I feel better? The doctor says, did you take the antibiotic? You said, yes, I took it the first day. I felt better. But then when I started to feel better, I stopped taking it. Yeah, but the prescription is for 7 days. The only way it works is if you do it for 7 straight days. Then it's going to be gone from your system. Now imagine you went around complaining to everybody that you can't find a good doctor. You can't find the right doctor for you. You had the right doctor. You just didn't take the prescription. I fumbled with this for years. Hipodadu, not doing it. Hipodadu, not doing it. Hipodadu, not doing it. Why? Because when you want to experience all these things that we're talking about, you're going to experience them when you do them. When you take the prescription. Because Rabbi Nachman is mamash a spiritual doctor. He is a doctor. If we are angry, it means that there's something wrong. If we're sad, it means that there's something wrong. If we're confused, it means something's wrong. It needs to be healed. It needs healing. It needs tikkun. Who can provide tikkun? Only Moshe. When does he provide tikkun? When you listen to Moshe. Who benefited the most from Moshe Rabbeinu? Yoshua ben Nun, his main student. How did he benefit so much from Moshe? Because he nullified himself to everything Moshe said. Why was he able to do that? Because he was humble. Because he didn't think he knew better. He didn't think my other events in my life are more important than what Moshe is telling me to do. Because to him, what are you talking about? Moshe, Mashiach is telling me this is good for me. How am I going to hear from Mashiach that something's going to help me and save me in my life and I'm not going to do it? How is Yoshua able to do that? Because he was humble. And what ended up happening? He so became a vessel for Moshe's light, he began to reflect the light of Moshe. To the extent that the Torah doesn't even count that Moshe is dead until Yoshua passes away. That even after Moshe passed away, it was like Moshe was still there. Because his light, his consciousness had been so absorbed by Yoshua, by Joshua, because he had completely nullified himself to Moshe. It wasn't because Joshua was an idiot. He was brilliant. It wasn't because he wasn't charismatic. He was that also. It wasn't because he wasn't capable. He was that also. But he was humble. Humble doesn't mean I do it when it makes sense to me. Humble means I do it when it doesn't make sense to me. If you had the answers to your problems, you wouldn't be learning this. If your intellect allowed you to figure out answers for these issues in your life, you wouldn't need answers. That means you need an answer that doesn't make sense to you. Doing an hour of Hipodadu a day doesn't make sense to you. That's good. It's good that it doesn't make sense. If it made sense to you that this is the most important thing in your life, that means you would have already done it. The fact that it doesn't make sense is great. that coming from a good source, obviously. If it's not coming from the right person, then it's irresponsible, and that can cause tremendous destruction in your life. But the proof is in the pudding. Look at his students. Look at the people who live with Rabbi Nachman's teachings. To live with them doesn't mean just to learn them and to be inspired by them. It means I force myself to do whatever he says, even when it doesn't make sense. Those people are happy. Those people have peace in their life. Those people have good relationships. Those people have joy. Those people have life force. Why? Because they're humble. Humble enough to admit that they don't know the answers to their problems. And only Moshe does. And as soon as you admit that, then you can begin to receive what he wants to give you.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
When I'm worried about the future, for example, my kid's safety or what school they should be going to, or like the community and its safety, should be moving maybe. So is that Yetzirah Hara or is that Hashem? Like, how do we know the difference?
The difference is like this. The end of actually what we're going to speak about next week, the end of this Tehillim is going to discuss this exact question. Anytime you have a fear that's not a fear of Hashem, which is almost every fear you have, it's not real. And if you invest in that fear, the result will be emotional chaos. The only way to nullify that anxiety about the future is only to have fear of Hashem. You don't have a choice about whether you fear something. You have to fear something. To fear means to have recognition of a greater reality. It doesn't mean I'm anxious. To have fear of Hashem means you have no anxiety. To have Yirat Shamayim means that you are so conscious of the fact that Hashem is in control of everything and everything he does is for the best, that you don't fear people, places, and things. So to have a concern about the future is normal, right? You have a concern, something happens, you have the concern. Now, what do you do with that concern? You bring it back to Hashem. You say, Hashem, I need your help. I want to send these kids to schools like this because I want them to be able to connect to you so they can have a good life. That's your hishtadlut, that's your effort. But that's the end of your effort. For you to worry and concern and to make yourself sad and angry and confused over it, that is definitely your Yetzirah.
So when you say fear Hashem, and is that the same as like trust in Hashem?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Let me see. It looks like there's questions on the bottom here. What do we get out of an hour versus doing it for 20 minutes? Do we not get the same benefit if it's just for 20 to 30 minutes? No, you don't get the same benefit. Nobody wants to tell you that because they want to encourage you to do it. However, I don't want to just encourage you to do it. I want you to do it the right way so that you can get the real benefit. Rabbi Nachman says every Jewish person needs to take at least 1 hour of his day to talk to Hashem, to be alone with Hashem. The minimum, he says, is 1 hour. So there's many reasons for that. We don't have time to discuss all of those reasons. But this is part of trusting the tzaddik. That when he gives a piece of advice, it's not just, oh, it's a good idea to go talk to Hashem for it. That's not how they give advice. It's based on knowing the entire Torah. It's based on knowing all of Kabbalah. It's based on knowing all of the oral Torah. It's based on knowing all of physical reality, all psychological reality, all emotional reality, and they come out with an advice of an hour a day. So you have to schedule an hour. And you have to take an hour out of your day. That doesn't mean 20 or 30 minutes isn't good for you. Everything is good for you. But if you want to know where is this thing that Rabbi Nachman's speaking about, when do I get to this point that I feel that joy, that happiness, that peace, that life? The answer is when you do the advice that he gives you. The advice he gave us is to do it for at least 1 hour. My life changed when I did at least 1 hour every day. How did I do that? When I was desperate, when I was struggling, when I hit a wall, and I had no choice but to do that. You don't have to wait for that wall. You don't have to hit rock bottom. You can just trust the tzaddik. Trust him. And if you don't, that's okay. But then go to your hibodedut, like I do every day, and I say to Hashem, I know enough now that I connect. Sorry, Michael, I'm going to put you on mute for a second because, thank you. I know that when I learn Rabbi Nachman's teachings, I feel alive. I feel hope. I feel faith. I feel connected to something deeper. I feel like this is my tzaddik. Okay, that's amazing. That's incredible. You guys, I believe, probably feel like that also, and that's why you're coming to these classes. That's amazing. That is a very important first step, and many people don't even know that, okay? What do you do with that? Go to your hibodedut and ask Hashem, help me to trust Rabbi Nachman completely. Help me to trust my Rebbe completely. Help me to trust my tzaddik completely. Because I know that the reason I'm struggling in my life is because I don't trust him completely. Because he says that if I do these things, I will be happy. And I am not happy, but I'm not doing the things that he says. That means I don't trust him. So my problem is not really that I have problems. My problem is I don't trust my Rebbe. That's okay. That's all of us. So how do you change that? You ask Hashem, help me to trust my tzaddik. Help me to trust my spiritual master. Help me to trust my guide that has consciousness which transcends this physical reality, which contains everything, which knows everything. And the fact that he says things and tells me to do things that don't make sense to me, that nobody else is doing, those are all only obstacles to you choosing your tzaddik. To choose your tzaddik doesn't just mean I'm inspired by Rabbi Nachman. It means every day to choose again. What does it mean to choose him? It means to do what he asks of us. And that's not because Rabbi Nachman is wanting to make you feel small. He wants you to feel the person you always wanted to be. But your ability to do that is to take your own intellect, which is your own consciousness, which is what's causing your suffering, and to move it to the side and to allow his to come into your life. And the way you experience his consciousness is to follow his advice. His advice is at least 1 hour a day.
So when you say that,
you,
so sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
When you say 1 hour a day, just like you said, you were in a deep, like in a struggle, and you would spend that 1 hour talking. Let's say when you are in a struggle, you have so much to talk about and help me that. But when you're in a good stage, and thank God, like everything works out for you,
right.
What can you find to talk about for an hour?
Okay, good question. The answer is, thank you, Hashem. Thank you, Hashem. Thank you, Hashem. What am I thanking Hashem for? Everything. I can see. You know how many people can't see? Can you imagine what it would be like if you can't see? I woke up, I made a bracha this morning, a blessing this morning. Thank you, Hashem, that you opened my eyes. Did you even think about what you're talking about? Do you know what a gift it is that you're able to see? Can you hear? Imagine you couldn't hear. We're learning that Hashem is recreating you at every moment. The fact that you can hear now means Hashem is choosing you can hear. You're not just able to hear now because you've been able to hear your whole life. You're not just able to see now because you've been able to see your whole life. Hashem is choosing that you can see now, 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 now. Thank you, Hashem, I could still see. Thank you, Hashem, I was able to eat food today. There's many people who don't have food to eat. Thank you, Hashem, the food I ate tasted good. Thank you, Hashem, that I'm alive. Thank you, Hashem, that things could get better. Thank you, Hashem, that even though I haven't experienced the good that the tzaddik, that Rabbi Nachman is teaching me, thank you that I actually have a tzaddik, that I know that eventually, with enough effort and enough perseverance, I will be able to experience that. That's unbelievable. Thank you, Hashem. Thank you, Hashem, that I'm Jewish. Rabbi Nachman says if a person understood at all what it means that they're Jewish, a man, a woman, if you really understood what it means that you're Jewish and what that means for yourself, in creation, for all time, Rabbi Nachman says you could be happy with that one thing the rest of your life. Thank you that you made me a woman. Thank you for technology, that I can have classes like this. There'd be no way I'd be able to learn Rabbi Nachman's teachings if I didn't. Thank you, Hashem, that I have clean clothes. The fact that you have all of these things, so you're saying, why am I saying thank you for them? Because you don't realize it's a gift. You don't realize Hashem is giving you a free gift at every moment. That's why we're not happy. Because we think we should have something. We don't realize we have everything. And all these things that you have are gifts. And they weren't one-time gifts. They're every moment. And the fact that it doesn't look like that is a mirage. You have a table to eat on. You don't have to have that. You have a hot shower. Baruch Hashem. Did you ever go to another country? Often they don't have hot showers. You ever go to a third world country? You go to the market, there's flies hovering over all of their food. And it smells everywhere. And the baby's stomachs are distending from not having enough nutritional value. What do I have to thank Hashem about? Everything. And if you don't really believe that Hashem is giving this to you as a free gift at every moment, so say to Hashem, Hashem, please help me to believe that you are giving me these free gifts at every moment. Help me to be thankful for things that I think are coming to me, that I think are natural, that Rabbi Nachman is teaching is really a recurring miracle. If you do this, you could do that for an hour easy. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Any last questions? Someone wrote here, and this is what we'll end with. I've noticed the more I learn Rabbi Nachman, the more obstacles come my way, and it's so unbearable. Already the Yetzer Hara harder and harder to fight. The deeper the Torah, the more of a wave of sleepiness comes. I just don't understand. It feels like I just have a huge klipa, and I don't understand from what. You and me both. Everybody who learns Rabbi Nachman's teachings and connects themselves and tries to the best of their ability to bring it into their life faces tremendous obstacles and difficulties and challenges. That means you're choosing correctly. Because Moshe always has Korach. And David always has the kings of the world. When you are trying to attach to the truth of truth, the thing that's actually going to bring you to happiness, to joy, to peace, you are going to have to overcome tremendous obstacles. You are going to have to overcome tremendous doubts. You are going to have to be bold and fierce. Is it always going to be this way? No. No. That's the best part. When the Yetzer Hara realizes that you're not going anywhere, that you are not getting deterred to the left or right by the challenges, by the obstacles, but you continue to do and to learn no matter what, and to try and bring it into your life, that no matter what anybody says to you, no matter what you hear from anyone, no matter even the doubts inside of yourself, you continue to go back and to continue to go over and over and over again. When the Sitra Achra realizes that you're not leaving and you're not budging, he will not cause you those problems anymore. That doesn't mean you won't have challenges in your life anymore. You're always going to have challenges in your life. But the challenges that you're facing right now are not like those challenges. To have challenges with Amunah is like being in another world. To have challenges with Simcha, with happiness all the time, is like being in another world. Rabbi Nachman's teachings are going to bring you to a place of tremendous joy, unlimited peace, unlimited happiness, unlimited Amunah. But every moment until you get there is going to be very hard. And the fact that it's so hard is a good sign. If it was easy, it means you're not really trying. Because, like we're learning in today's Tehillim, the last thing that the Yetzer Hara wants any Jewish man or woman to do is to truly attach himself completely to his Rebbe, to his tzaddik. Because as soon as he attaches himself to Moshe Rabbeinu, he's done. So the only way I'm able to tell you that is because I went through all of that to the greatest degree. To the psych ward, to the psych meds, to depression, to emotional chaos, to physical illness. You name it, I had all of it. And all of it started and intensified with Rabbi Nachman's teachings. But I didn't give up. Because Rabbi Nachman says it's only temporary. It's only to increase your will for the good. And if you don't give up, you will persevere. You will find the golden mountain and the pearl castle. And it's not going to be in another lifetime. It's not going to be 10 years from now. It doesn't have to be 5 years from now. It doesn't even have to be a year from now. It doesn't even have to be a month from now. It could be tomorrow. You don't know when that is. So don't give up. Never, ever, ever give up. And then you will make it. Everybody have a great night. I'll see everybody on Sunday night, Bezrat Hashem, men and women's class. Thank you so much.